Chapter 20 of Sedition, Part 1. Anatami woke to the painful prodding of hooves around her wounds. Her eyes snapped open as she rounded on the offender with a hiss, and the mare that had been leaning over her stumbled back in shock. She was lying on a bedroll absent of any stuffing, just one of many sprawled throughout the long tent around her. Ponies bustled around the tent, coats shining with the sweat of exertion, fussing over orange-liveried soldiers while barking orders and reports over their heads. Anna looked down, noting the bandages that had been wrapped around her shoulder and barrel, binding her injured wing to her side.
Guess I lucked out.
She looked back up to the mare that had been treating her, narrowing her eyes. The mare was young, her pastel pink coat blending well with the blood speckling her cheeks.
Where's Titus?
The mare gaped, mouth flopping uselessly. Anna grunted as she climbed to her hooves, pushing the painful complaints of her body aside.
I need to speak to the Duke. Where is he?
The mare refused to meet Anna's eyes, shivering and cringing as the Thestral let out an exasperated sigh. She looked around, searching for a more senior pony that might be able to help her, only to blink in surprise as Duke Titus stepped into the tent. His face was dirty, the hairs matted down by a grungy mixture of dried mud speckled with old blood. And he wore a full set of chainmail under his usual breastplate, supplemented by more plating around his shoulders and barrel. Small scratches and dents adorned his armor, and although the steel had lost the polished sheen it once carried, his eyes seemed sharper than ever. He focused in on her quickly, closing the distance with no regard for the healers ducking out of his way. Moon-cursed. My sergeant tells me he found you passed out next to the wreck of a Frieseland scout ship. He towered over her, mouth turned down into a stern frown. A report I find quite disturbing, on account of Whitehorn's promises that I'd not have to deal with your treacheries. Anna met his gaze coolly, straightening up in spite of her wounds.
Trust me, my lord. Your siege camp is the last place I want to be right now.
And yet here you are, Titus growled. Betrayed him already? I warned him against working with one such as ye, but that unicorn's convinced he always knows everything. Anna smirked.
Fortunately, I find myself here on his request. With your blessing, I'd appreciate it if I could be on my way back to Frieseland.
And how can I know you ain't planning on causing some chaos for me the instant I let you out of my sight? Titus asked, narrowing his eyes. Anna rolled hers.
I guess it would be more surprising than not if he actually took my word for it.
She looked around, spotting her satchel left on the ground beside her bedroll, and picked it up.
I have here several examples of writing from one of Nettlekiss's scribes.
She paused, leaning in and lowering her voice.
As well as a copy of her seal.
Titus arched a brow. He sat down, snatching the satchel away and flipping it open so he could peer inside, eyes widening as he verified her story. Does she know?
Hard to say,
Anna said.
I was detected within her keep, but I expect the scribe I stole it from will be loath to admit she lost it, so the Duchess may assume I was an assassin. Either way, it's only a matter of time.
Titus nodded, shoving the satchel roughly back into Anna's hooves. Frieseland, you say? What's that weasel Whitehorn getting at? Anna shrugged.
He's got the whole city on edge. I think he intends to turn the commoners against Nettlekiss, and maybe start some kind of revolt.
A revolt, eh? Titus nodded again, his frown pulling up into a small grin. It's fitting, I suppose, that those two clever Frieselanders be done in by a pony like him. As long as he leaves some blood for Baron Blades, that is. He looked away, brow furrowing. I'll have you on a wagon to the city within the hour, along with one of my messengers. He narrowed his eyes, shooting her a sideways glare. And if I hear you've meddled in his affairs, I don't care what Whitehorn says. I'll have your head. Anna grinned, baring her fangs.
I'll be sure to keep that in mind.
Rainbow Dash paused, her raised hoof hovering just inches away from Sea Sabre's door. What was she doing? She had to be insane, coming freely with the truth of what she'd done. She could still hide it, couldn't she? She had the uniform Sea Sabre had given her, and although the other mare might question her suddenly starting to wear it everywhere, it should be simple enough to pass it off for some innocuous reason. The Argo ticked at her thoughtfully as she lowered her hoof, ears drooping. Applejack sighed to her left, stepped up, and pounded a hoof against the door. Rainbow's eyes shot wide open as she rounded on her friend, speaking in a low hiss.
Hey, Jade, what the hey?
Applejack just shrugged. Rainbow's pulse quickened at the sound of muffled hoofsteps on metal inside the room, and an instant later, the door swung open. Sea Sabre regarded them with her cool, impassive gaze.
Rainbow Dash? Applejack?
Applejack tipped her hat, and Rainbow forced a tight smile.
Hey, Sabre.
To her surprise, Sabre's lips pulled up into a small smile of her own.
Welcome back. Feeling better?
Rainbow glanced to her left, taking some strength from Applejack's encouraging smile.
Can we talk in private? Both of you.
Sabre arched a brow as she looked between them.
Very well. Come in.
Rainbow could barely hear her thoughts as she crossed the threshold. The click of Applejack closing the door behind them rang in her ears like a gunshot. Sabre's room was as barren as ever. A cloth had been spread out over the bed, her wing blade spread out upon it next to a small bottle of oil. Sabre sat next to the bed, grabbing a smaller cloth and beginning to push it down the length of one of the blades.
I'm guessing this is about Twilight Sparkle?
Rainbow choked, her mouth flopping uselessly as she failed to get any words out. What was she supposed to say? Her heart pounded against her chest, mimicking her own desire for escape. Maybe she could still get out of this, make some excuse, and drag Applejack out of the room before...
Rainbow here's got something she needs to tell y'all, Sabre,
Applejack said firmly. Sabre paused in her work for only a second. Her ear flicked to the side as she started again, not looking up.
I'm listening.
Rainbow grimaced as she shot a pleading look towards her friend, but the cowpony just pursed her lips and shook her head. She was standing squarely in front of the door, blocking off any escape. The seconds stretched on into minutes. Sabre continued diligently servicing her wing blades, and when she finally spoke, her calm voice made Rainbow jump in surprise.
How are you feeling?
Rainbow found herself unable to look at her.
What do you mean? You seem tense, and not in the way you usually are,
Sabre said. Rainbow sighed as she found a spot of bare wall and leaned heavily against it. She was silent for a moment, watching the calm, measured motions of Sabre's hooves.
I did something.
Sabre stopped. She set her rubbing cloth aside and turned around, facing Rainbow fully.
Tell me.
Rainbow ran a hoof through her mane as she looked away, licking her lips. Why was this so hard? She'd done the right thing, hadn't she? She'd been so certain in the moment, and even when she had to face Applejack. She'd woken from her brief nap feeling refreshed, feeling proud. So why was it that now she suddenly felt like she'd done something wrong? She looked to Applejack, receiving a small smile in return. She wasn't alone. Taking a deep breath and setting her jaw, Rainbow straightened up and met Sabre's gaze. She thought back to the way Silverblood had grinned at her in his last moments, so cocksure that he was safe in his wealth. And her voice came out clear and confident.
I killed Silverblood.
Her words hung in the air. And for a moment, Sabre was so still that Rainbow wondered if the mayor had even heard her. You what? Rainbow stiffened. Sabre's eyes bored into her, carrying an intensity she'd only seen once before. Right after she discovered Dusty Tome's dead body. But Rainbow didn't flinch.
I killed him.
Sabre stood up and stepped closer, narrowing her eyes. When? He saw us off from the Orichalcum himself.
Well, I flew back.
Rainbow spat. Sabre's eyes widened, her brow hardening at the same time, and Rainbow rushed to explain.
It wasn't my plan, okay? I was just stretching my wings like I said, but I ended up back around his ship and he was right there.
She tossed her mane as she remembered it all, nostrils flaring.
He smiled at me.
You killed him for smiling at you?
Sabre's voice was quiet, but it carried a tense fury that conveyed just as much weight as a full-bodied shout.
No!
Rainbow snarled as she closed the distance between them, stabbing her hoof into Sabre's chest.
I killed him for putting a bounty on my friends. I killed him for driving Twilight mad. I killed him!
She jabbed the hoof up to her eye patch.
For taking my eye! And I don't regret it!
For a long moment, neither mare said anything. Rainbow's chest heaved as she stared Sabre down, waiting for some furious outburst to meet her own.
Applejack?
Sabre said curtly.
Leave us.
Now, hold on. I'm here to— This is my ship! Sabre roared, rounding on Applejack. And the ponies on my ship follow my orders! Get out! Applejack flinched back. She glanced to Rainbow, who gave her a reassuring nod.
Thanks, AJ, but this is something I have to face alone.
I'll be right outside. With another quick tip of her hat, Applejack slipped out into the hall and shut the door behind her. The click of the door had barely faded when Sabre brought her glare back onto Rainbow.
What the fuck are you thinking?
She hissed, shoving her muzzle into Rainbow's face.
After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?
You wouldn't understand, Sabre.
Rainbow seethed back.
He hurt my friends, and he was laughing in our face about it. I couldn't just do nothing.
I don't understand,
Sabre echoed.
Of all the ponies on this ship, I am the only one who understands.
Rainbow blinked.
What?
I took you on because I saw myself in you.
Sabre spat.
Because you and I share the same drive to protect our ponies from anything that might ever think to harm them. To carry them through the fire and take the burns onto ourselves. And I wanted to help you before you got yourself killed. I understand exactly why you killed that sad excuse for a pony, but you are not an island, Rainbow Dash! Your actions have an effect on the ponies around you, and in case you haven't noticed...
She jabbed her hoof into Rainbow's chest with each word, harder every time.
You're on my ship!
Rainbow's eyes widened.
But you didn't do anything. It was all me, and they saw it.
I told them you were on my crew, Rainbow!
Sabre slapped at Rainbow's ear with her hoof, making her flinch back.
Crazy Rich is helping you on his whims! And you've repaid him by assassinating a business partner in his name!
Rainbow blanched. Her hind legs dropped out under her as the true weight of her actions finally caught up to her.
But I didn't mean to...
Sabre grit her teeth as she turned away, pacing across the room.
Why are you doing this to me, Rainbow? I worked hard to get where I am. I had a fucking good contract. An employer that gave me everything I needed to keep my ponies alive, and he let me operate without sticking his nose where it didn't belong, and now...
She scoffed, tail flicking sharply behind her.
I'm done. Once word of this gets to Highton, the fucking accountants that keep Crazy's estate together would make sure of it. They're always looking for excuses to cut costs.
Sabre kicked at the wall with a hind leg, denting the metal, and the loud bang shook Rainbow from her shock.
So what are we gonna do?
You are doing nothing,
Sabre spat.
I am turning this ship around. This operation is over.
Wait, what?
A chill ran down Rainbow's spine as Sabre turned and flung her door open, the edge hitting the wall behind it.
You can't do that!
I can do anything I want, Rainbow!
Sabre didn't look back as she stormed out into the hall.
It's my fucking ship!
Rainbow grimaced as she gave chase, skidding to a stop at the sight of Applejack in shock after Sabre stalking down the hall. The cowpony looked to Rainbow with wide eyes. How's she taking it?
She wants to turn around, AJ!
Rainbow jabbed an accusing hoof out.
She wants to ditch Twilight, and it's your fault!
Applejack gave her a tight-lipped frown.
Rainbow Dash, I love you to death, but I ain't the one that went out killing ponies, and I don't take kindly to you putting the blame for the fallout on me. That mare's got every right to leave us dry. We're just gonna have to do our best to convince her otherwise.
Applejack turned, starting down after Sabre without waiting for any response, and Rainbow had no choice but to follow. They trotted down the stairs to the lower level, following the sharp sound of hoofsteps towards the crew quarters. Sabre was pounding on the door to Star Trails' room as she came into sight.
Trails, report!
Rainbow and Applejack were just coming to a stop behind Sabre when the doorknob glowed with the pale blue of Trails' magic. The door swung open, revealing Trails lying prone on a thickly blanketed bed, an old comic book splayed out over her forelegs and hoof-drawn star charts pinned to the wall behind her.
What the hey, boss?
Trails asked, ears perked up in alarm.
What's up?
We're turning back,
Sabre said sharply.
Plot course to Baltimore.
What? Baltimore?
Trails frowned as she slid out of bed.
What about Twilight?
That's not our problem anymore,
Sabre snapped.
Now carry out your orders.
The Pegasus stormed off, leaving Trails blinking in surprise. She looked between Rainbow and Applejack in obvious confusion.
What the hey happened, guys? We're almost there.
Applejack looked to Rainbow, who let out a nervous chuckle.
Well, Remember how I flew off after you told us about those bounties?
Trails frowned.
Yeah? So I kinda ran across the orichalcum while I was out there.
Rainbow said, bracing herself.
And one thing led to another, and I killed Silverblood.
Trails blinked. She looked to Applejack with a nervous grin, only for the expression to fall away as she saw the grim frown on the other mare's face.
Oh, stars. You're not kidding.
Rainbow sighed.
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, shit!
Trails galloped past them, shouting after Sabre.
Wait, Sabre! What are we doing?
Exchanging a quick glance with Applejack, Rainbow gave chase. They caught up to Sabre standing in front of the door to the cargo hold, Trails skidding to a stop in front of her.
You should be on the bridge, Trails.
Sabre snapped.
Or did I stutter?
No, I heard you, but what's going on here?
Trails gestured towards the cargo hold with a hoof.
We're bringing Princess Luna to Baltimore? Those freaks will cut her to pieces.
Well, we certainly aren't taking her back to Highton.
Sabre seethed, straightening up and staring Star Trails down.
Our contract won't survive this, Trails. The rich estate will send a repo team to take the Argo, and we'll have bounty hunters after us over Silverblood. If we want to keep it or our lives, we need someone to protect us. Baltimore is always looking for salvage crews, and we can trade Luna for a fair contract. It's our best chance.
Damn it, Sabre, she's not some mindless artifact you can pawn off to the highest bidder.
Trails pursed her lips as she spread her stance.
That's Princess Luna! And the only way we're gonna save her from whatever she's suffering is taking her north, like Twilight told us.
Sabre frowned, her voice taking on a dangerous edge.
Are you refusing my order?
The door to the galley opened from the top of the stairs, and all eyes turned to see Flintlock squinting down at them. What the fuck is all this shouting about, eh?
Sabre wants to sell the princess to Baltimore,
Trails blurted. Flint looked to Sabre, brow furrowing. Us?
Our contract with Rich is done, Flint,
Sabre explained calmly.
Rainbow Dash doubled back and killed Silverblood, and word will reach Rich about it long before we do. Princess Luna is our best chance at a good contract elsewhere.
Flint blinked, turning to Rainbow. You killed the bastard? Unlike everyone else, Flint actually sounded more impressed than anything. Still, Rainbow had the presence of mind to answer him with a grimace.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, fuck me, Dash. You already had my respect, but if you keep this up, you might get my admiration, too.
Flint!
Sabre barked. All right. Flint shrugged as he started down the stairs. Hope you don't mind if I squeeze past. Thinking I'll take a nap and let all this blow over.
Stay, Flint.
Sabre pursed her lips, her wings hovering an inch from her sides.
Trails, stand down, and you two?
The Pegasus narrowed her eyes.
Do not try to interfere with the running of my ship.
Applejack shook her head with a sigh.
Sabre, y'all know I respect you. If it wasn't for me, Artie probably wouldn't have even told you what she did. Can't we all just simmer down and talk this out civil-like without snapping at each other's ears?
Sabre stomped a hoof.
This is not a democracy, and this is not a discussion.
Boss, come on.
Trails stepped closer, offering up an uneasy smile.
You can't be serious about this. Selling the princess? That's straight out of some comic villain's playbook.
This isn't some comic book where you can draw a clean line between heroes and villains, Trails. This is real life.
Sabre flared her wings as Flint came to a stop at her side, lending his imposing bulk to her words.
I have never once put anything ahead of my ponies, and I'm sure it's Tartarus not starting now.
But why not?
Trails asked.
There's only ever been 2 princesses, Sabre, and we are their ponies. I get your priorities. I love being on your crew, right? I know you always do everything you can to take care of us, but that sleepy alicorn in there needs us. And if we let her down, Equestria will never have a chance like this again.
I am not her little pony,
Sabre growled.
Neither she nor her sister ever did anything to help me or the ponies I cared about. Every pony in my platoon that went home alive, they did it because of me.
She stepped forwards, pushing her snarling muzzle into Trails' face.
An alicorn has never once answered any pony's prayers, Star Trails. We don't owe her a damn thing.
Rainbow's ears went flat against her head, anger swelling inside her at the blatant disrespect for the princess. And before she knew it, Flintlock was holding her back, his big legs wrapped around her chest while her wings beat vainly against the air.
Ah! How dare you talk about the princesses like that?
Rainbow screamed.
Of course they've never answered any of your prayers! Luna's been sleeping at the bottom of the ocean for centuries! And I know for a fact that Celestia must be trapped somewhere too because she'd never leave Equestria hanging!
Get your mare under control, Jackie! Flint winced as her wings buffeted against his shoulders. She's got the fire of a phoenix pissing hot sauce!
Cool it, Hardy,
Applejack called.
We're trying to avoid a fight, remember?
Rainbow growled in frustration as she felt Applejack bite down on her tail, helping Flint wrestle her out of the air.
It's ponies like you that are the problem, Sabre. The princesses would do anything to help Equestria if they could, but this time they're the ones that need help. And if you're willing to sell her out just to save your own skin, then you're no better than Silverblood.
No better than Silverblood?
Sabre's lip twitched back as she shook her head.
So what's your plan, Rainbow Dash? Kill the entire crew of the Argo? Because that's what you'll have to do if you want to override my orders.
Trails stepped in front of her, hooves clasped together pleadingly.
Sabre, I have never once turned down an order from you, but just this once, when we've got the fate of an alicorn hanging in the balance, don't you think you could ask us what we want?
Sabres frowned down at the unicorn, ignoring Rainbow's continued struggles.
Trails, don't you understand how much danger she's put us in?
Yes!
Trails gave an emphatic nod.
Yes, I get it. She's a hothead and she's got no self-control, and just because nearly everyone else around Silverblood was constantly daydreaming about doing him in, doesn't make our position any better. Even if he probably deserved it.
Rainbow's ears perked up at that, and she stopped struggling, Applejack and Flint both falling back with sighs of relief.
Oh, thank you!
Trails didn't look back.
But we've been in dangerous places before. We've risked our lives before, right? Plenty of times. You always bring us back.
Sabre shook her head.
Those were jobs, Trails. It's not the same thing.
So, what? You're okay with us risking our lives exploring ruins so we can bring magic trinkets back home for Crazy to show off to his friends? But now that we have an alicorn princess relying on us to wake her up, it's too much?
Trails offered a tentative grin.
We can be heroes, Sabre. We can change the world.
For a moment, Sabre was silent. When she finally did speak, her voice was calm and measured.
And what if it doesn't work? What am I supposed to do if we return to Equestria empty-hooved, with the repo crews and bounty hunters watching every island in the north?
Honestly, Sabre?
Trail shrugged.
Ponies don't usually retire from this career as it is. And I would rather meet my end trying to Save a princess than at the hooves of some lucky sea pony guarding a piece of salvage.
Sabre frowned down at Trails for several seconds, saying nothing, and Rainbow found herself holding her breath. She exchanged a nervous glance with Applejack before looking back. If it came down to it, Rainbow decided, she just hoped Sabre would give up before things went too far. Finally, Sabre looked away.
Flint,
Aye, boss?
what do you think about this?
Yeah. Charlie's right that we're on borrowed time. As for us too. Flint snorted. Considering what we've survived, I figure maybe we owe the princess a favor or two. He quirked his lips, eyes unfocusing. And I bet she could find us a whole heap of salvage. Sabre let out a tired sigh. Her wings drooped down at her sides, and for a brief moment she swayed as if exhausted. The moment was gone as fast as it came. Rainbow blinked, and Sabre was back like she was always. Firm stance, sharp eyes, and hard voice.
I'll check with Sunfeather then, and if she agrees, we can continue north.
A collective breath of relief passed over the assembled ponies. Rainbow broke out into a wide grin, and she was just getting ready to jump up and cheer when Sabre fixed her with a harsh glare.
Don't. I'm not doing this for you.
Sabre shuffled her wings as she turned away.
Your training with me is over. You can keep the wing blades.
She stalked away, following the hall and turning out of sight. As soon as she was gone, Trails slumped against the nearest wall, running a hoof through her mane.
Sweet Luna, Rainbow, could you have possibly done anything more monumentally scuffed?
Rainbow frowned.
I thought you said he deserved it.
Oh, hush. Applejack raised a hoof and smacked at Rainbow's ear, drawing a startled yelp. Y'all ain't off the hook with me either. Flint let out a low chuckle. Don't be too hard on the mare, Jackie. And nobody gonna miss that grinning bastard.
So I guess we're doing this, huh?
Trails asked, looking between them all.
Usually when salvage crews dig something up that ends their career, it's 'cause they're all dead.
We appreciate you, Trails, Applejack said. I hate to even think about what might have gone down if y'all weren't here to talk Sabre down. Trails grinned.
Hey, I used to daydream about meeting a princess when I was a filly. If I really had to choose a side today, though, I'm not even sure where I'd stand.
Well, I'm done standing around griping, Flint grumbled, turning and starting back up the stairs. And if you want some drinks, got another keg of family cider back on the Orichalcum. Might be the last one I find for a while, but I figure going rogue and deciding to go on some fancy quest is worth popping it open. Trail straightened up, following after him.
Oh, I am so there!
Rainbow was left alone with Applejack at the base of the stairs. She looked to her friend, offering up a strained grin.
Guess it all worked out, huh?
Well, thanks to y'all, I reckon.
Applejack sighed, shaking her head.
Something tells me Sabre's the kind of mare to hold a grudge on something like this. But I'm done talking about it for now. Let's go get some cider.
She walked up the stairs, following Flint and Trails down the hall towards the galley. Rainbow hesitated for just a moment, glancing back to the cargo hold.
Don't worry, Princess,
she whispered.
There's a few ponies left in Equestria that have your back.
Taking a deep breath, Rainbow followed the sounds of chatter already drifting from the galley. She still had to get her practice in for the day, but at that moment what she really wanted more than anything, was a good drink and to relax with friends.